Hey, what's up everybody? It's Julius DeBerry with Majestic Studios, and today I got the video that you guys have been waiting on, the subject matter at hand that everyone has been asking me about. We are going to put the Yamaha Montage M X up against the Roland Fantom, but this is the EX version. So if that's what you guys have come to see, and you want to know my perspective, stay tuned, because we're about to get started right now. All right, so I'm not even gonna lie to y'all, man. This was a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. The first comparison or versus video I did for the newly released Yamaha Montage was against the Chronos, and that one was a lot more easy for me to do. This one, I don't know, it was kind of tough. I took my time with some ideas and concepts and things that I wanted to talk about, but I think I'm finally ready to do that. So without further ado, I just want to make sure you guys know that this is just my opinion. I am not paid by either of these companies to give my opinion on the keyboards, and I am just a keyboard player. I'm a keyboard tech. I'm a musician, and so this is coming from my perspective, my opinion, and in the ways that I would use the keyboards, and I'm just giving you guys some information, some things to consider to help you guys make that decision. All right, so we're going to come from a couple of different categories, but within those categories, we got them divided into some subcategories. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the sounds and the engines. All right, so first off, what I want to say is that if you are considering either of these two keyboards to be your new workstation, to be your new synth, to be your new keyboard, I think you will be safe with either decision. If you decide to go with the Fantom or you decide to go with the Montage as it relates to sounds, they are both going to run the gambit for whatever you need as far as bread and butter sounds, for sure. So if it's something that you're looking for that you would see in a Rompler, being able to utilize pianos, electric pianos, things that you would hear from acoustic instruments, and even electric and synthesizer type instruments, both of these keyboards will be able to do a phenomenal 10 out of 10 job as far as that is concerned. But one thing that I do want to tell you is that there may be some specialized things that you may not be able to find from them. And so when I say that, that's a little bit of a loose statement, but some people have specific needs as it relates to synth engines, and those type of things you may or may not be able to find within these keyboards. But within the confines of the engines and the samples that these keyboards provide compared to each other, if you're considering them, you will be safe either way. I do want to add this though. If you are using the EX version, if you have decided to purchase that, or if you decide to purchase that with your Roland Fantom, there is going to be an engine within that upgrade called Enzyme. Now that is a wavetable synthesizer, and it is going to provide some elements and some things as far as programming is concerned that you will not find on the Montage. But utilizing the engines that are in the Montage, you may be able to get close or be able to find some things that are comparable. So on the flip side of that, with the FM engine that the Montage has, there is no dedicated FM type engine on the Fantom. So those are some sounds that if you're after using those FM type engine based sounds, you will not be able to do those in their true form and true nature on the Fantom. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to create FM-like sounds, because there are plenty of sounds that can mimic that or that you can program within the Fantom that will get you close or get you in the ballpark. But that is a major difference between the two. But also consider, if FM is something that is specific to you and something that you need specifically, you can also get that from the original Montage. You don't have to purchase the Montage M to get that. So those are some pretty major differences between the two. But just as it relates to the raw rumplers or raw synthesis or raw synth waveforms, you will be able to fulfill your needs with either one of these keyboards, and I think you'll be happy with either one of those. So since we're talking about the Enzyme engine and the FM engine, we may as well bring up the fact that the Montage has 3 specific engines built into it. There is a standard Rompler engine, but it is very robust in its feature set and what it allows you to do as far as the elements and the parts are concerned within the sounds you create on the keyboard. We also have the ANX engine, which is a synthesizer-based engine, and then we have the FM synthesis. Those are the 3 engines that you will get within your Montage M. When you buy it, that's what it will come with out of the box. You don't have to do anything extra to be able to utilize those sounds. Now, the Roland Fantom has some other engines in it that are different from this. They have their standard Zencore engine, but they also model a lot of other synth-based engines within the keyboard. Some of those engines are free. You can download them from the Roland website. I think there's 4 of them you can get from the Roland Cloud website. But even without downloading, you get stuff like the V Piano built into the keyboard, which is a dedicated piano engine that has quite a bit of editing features and stuff like that within the keyboard, and you get that right out of the box. Now, with that said, if you would like to pay an extra upgrade fee, you can upgrade your Fantom from the regular Fantom to the Fantom EX. And the Fantom EX now includes a new engine that is based on ACB, which is like analog circuitry for the keyboard. And right now they've given us the Jupiter 8 as a engine, a dedicated Jupiter 8 engine within the keyboard that has its own voices. And there is another engine called the SH101 that will be available for us that purchased that upgrade, and that will be available in December. With that EX upgrade, you also get a new Supernatural piano that is the German Grand, which is a phenomenally sounding piano. You will also receive the JD800 engine, which is also dedicated. I don't think it has its own polyphony, but it has a dedicated interface to help you if you're familiar with that JD engine and interface, and you can utilize that right on screen in the keyboard to help you program those sounds that you need from the JD engine. And then lastly, the Roland EX upgrade will also include the Enzyme engine that we spoke about, which before the EX upgrade was available had a separate cost by itself, but now for a cost of $199 you're able to upgrade your keyboard to the EX version, and that includes the Enzyme engine as well as the other engines that I mentioned. I initially had planned to do this review much sooner, and because Roland came out with this upgrade, I am glad that I waited because it leveled the playing field significantly as far as sound creation between the 2 keyboards is concerned. Now we come to something that the Montage will have a significant advantage over the Fantom in as it relates to sounds, and that is polyphony. The Fantom is slated and advertised at having 400 voices of polyphony. That polyphony is divided per engine. With the standard Rompler, you will get 128 voices of polyphony. If you're using user sample voices, that engine itself will have 128 voices of polyphony. The FM engine that we discussed earlier will have 128 voices of polyphony. And then the ANX synth engine will have 16 voices of polyphony. So if you know how to utilize all of those engines together, you can build a quite large sound and not have to worry about voices dropping out because of the great polyphony number that is included with the Montage. Now, on the Fantom, people have complained about polyphony issues for a very long time. I've not run into major issues with polyphony with the Fantom. Really, I haven't run into many problems with it at all. Sometimes I believe that polyphony issues can not necessarily be user error, but there are some creative ways that you can layer your sounds and use the velocity layers and the key ranges to layer your sounds, and also a separate sound slot depending on where you are in the song to help you get around some of those polyphony issues. Now, some other things that you can do as far as the Fantom is concerned to help you with polyphony problems is you can utilize the V piano, which has unlimited polyphony. So if you're using piano voices, it would almost always be in your best interest to use the V piano because of that unlimited polyphony that it gives. And in order to use the V piano, it must be in the first slot on the keyboard. So that is somewhat of a limitation that you're going to run into. But if you're using pianos, having that unlimited voices could be a major benefit and allow you to utilize the rest of the polyphony for other areas of the piano. One bad thing about that, though, is that when you're using the ACB engine that is included in the EX upgrade, so for the Jupiter 8 or the SH101 that will be coming in December, those ACB engines also must be slated on the first layer. Now, I've talked to some people that have, because of that, it was a major turnoff to them. They don't want to be limited by things like that within the keyboard. So that means that you can't use the V piano and the Jupiter at the same time. That is a big deal. And then there's an organ engine that is in the keyboard, and I think it has to be on layer 2. So because of how the keyboard is programmed internally and how they, routed things as far as the engines are concerned, they have kind of made some specifications that you must go by as far as how to take advantage of the engines and how they must be used. But there is a lot of layering capability. There's a lot of places that you can get sounds from to help you as far as that polyphony is concerned. But I think you can get a big advantage if you keep your piano in slot 1 because of the unlimited polyphony. But if you're deciding that, hey, I need to use the Jupiter for this sound, but I still want to use a piano, you just have to be cautious with that polyphony, because when you put your piano sound on any other layer other than the first one, you're going to be subject to those polyphony issues, which with this Fantom are 128 voices with the standard ROM, which is limited to 128 voices with the standard Zencore engine. So based on the information that I had to give you today with the sounds, it's a kind of almost a 50-50 tie. I think that if I had to pick based on sounds alone, it would be hard not to pick the Montage because of the polyphony that it offers. But I will say that I have not personally run into issues with polyphony with the Fantom, and I've done like 3 or 4 live streams over the last few days. I haven't been layering a bunch of sounds, but I have layered 3 or 4 sounds in those, and I'm able to get a pretty nice and large sound and not run out of polyphony and not have voices dropping out of my sound. So I'm not going to say that the Fantom is not worthy or can't accomplish what you need to accomplish as far as your sounds are concerned because of the polyphony issues or because of the polyphony limitations. Yeah, let's use limitations instead of issues. Because of the polyphony limitations, you just have to be careful and smart in how you layer your sounds in order to be able to take full advantage of what the keyboard offers. Both of these keyboards sound phenomenal. The sound quality, the conversion, they're awesome. The samples that they're using are awesome. The synth engines that they're using are awesome. There's a lot of sonic potential within the keyboards because of what they offer as far as the programming is concerned. So I think you'll enjoy both keyboards as it relates to sounds. During my live streams, I've had several people and even people leaving comments on my videos asking if I had to pick between the Montage and the Fantom, which one I would pick. And so that's something that I'm going to leave up to you guys, but I did want to give you the information about the sounds and their engines to kind of help you make that decision. Okay, so the next set of areas that I want to talk about, if you're not dealing with sounds with the keyboard, the next most important thing is going to be the workflow. And in my opinion, within the workflow, we're going to include the interface of the keyboards as well as the ease of use. So workflow is something that is going to be dependent on the user. So everyone has a different way that they like to work, a different way that they like to use the keyboard, a different way that they like to have things set up. So it's going to be kind of hard for me to come from a perspective of which one has the better workflow. I think people develop workflow when they use a keyboard. So what may be difficult or not easy to use for one person could be very easy for the next person, and vice versa, because it all boils down to which one you learn, which one you spend time with, and which one you use. I would ask you guys that before you make a purchase like this or invest the kind of money that you have to pay for either of these keyboards, if you can sit down with one in a personal setting and see how it feels, see how you vibe with the keyboard, see how it feels to interact with the keyboard, to see which one you think would be a better fit for you. It's really difficult to go off another person's word as far as that's concerned. If you're familiar with the way Yamaha does things as far as their motifs are concerned, this keyboard is different. The Montage is different from the motifs, but there are some similarities. There are actually a lot of similarities. If you are familiar with the Montage, then having this Montage M will be a breeze for you. There are some enhanced things that they've added, but the interface in itself is similar to the way things were before as it relates to the way the programming works. Now, with that said, there are some significant upgrades they made to the Montage system, such as the second screen, which is a great tool to have. It allows you to see a sub screen from the main big screen, and it helps you with your programming parameters. At any moment, there's a button that you can push that is right beside the screen, and when you push that button, whatever parameters are on the small screen will pop up on the big screen. If you have parameters on the big screen and you want to put them on the small screen, you can push that same button that is beside the small screen, but you have to hold shift, and when you hold shift, it sends things from the big screen to the small screen. So you can go this way from small to big, or you can go that way from big to small. And it makes things very easy to keep things outlined, keep things in line, and help you know what parameters you're looking at a given time, what parameters you're working with at a given time. They did, however, change some things on the right side of the right panel of the keyboard as it relates to the categories that are there and the way the buttons are laid out. They did go away from that traditional way that Yamaha has with the, I think it was a 3-button push where you would select a category, a main category, a subcategory, and then a sound within that. It was almost like a bank select, and people had become very familiar with that button push sequence to get to certain sounds or get to certain banks that they need to get to. Well, they have taken that away completely. It's a different way altogether now. It is intuitive how they have the category buttons laid out. There's 6 of them that go from the piano section all the way to, I think, chromatic percussion or sound effects, and they're in 4 rows with 4 buttons on each row. And then beside those 16 buttons, there is a bank up and down and a page up and down button. So it's going to take some getting used to for those that were very familiar with it, but it's still intuitive and it's still easy to use. With that said, the Montage also has a lot of things to touch, turn, pull, push to help you as far as your sound creation is concerned, to help you get around the board quickly. The super knob is something that has become synonymous with the Montage, and it allows quick editing to change multiple parameters at one time. They've also added a portamento knob and speed setting. They've added a keyboard hold button. They still have the 2 wheels. There is a new type of ribbon controller that is sectioned off that will allow you to program and set things up for sounds based on where your fingers are on the ribbon controller. So that's pretty cool. And like I said in the Chronos video, the Montage is well laid out. It's almost to the extent that, like, I was like, are they trying to redefine what we consider as far as a interface for a keyboard and how things are done and how things are laid out and what it means to be able to control things and change sounds on the fly. The Montage interface itself is great. And that's coming from someone that didn't have the original Montage. I am familiar with the motif way of doing things, but I didn't have the original Montage, so kind of starting with this keyboard was kind of a new thing for me. But I'm able to come up to speed with how things flow pretty well so far. I've got some more digging to do for sure, but I think that if you buy this keyboard, you will like and enjoy the workflow as far as the interface is concerned. With the Montage, it's also very easy to get in and out of menus if you're needing to add parts. There is a screen there with plus signs in each part, and all you have to do to add a layer is push the plus sign, and then you're able to add a category or a sound that you need. You don't have to do anything as far as MIDI channels are concerned. There's nothing else that you have to do. It's automatically assigned to the second fader. But if you want to go in and do some things as far as your velocity control or even the key range of the sound, you can do that right there from their front panel on that screen as well. So like I said, I think you guys will enjoy the Montage. It's easy to use. It is user friendly. Now with that said, it is also complex. There's a lot that you can do as far as getting in those menus. You can get lost in those menus, but it's easy to get out if you need to. Just push the exit button a couple of times and you'll be back at a pretty familiar place, pretty familiar screen. But having those screens, small and big to use, plus all the buttons and knobs that they have, I think you will enjoy the interface and the workflow of the Montage quite a bit. Now, with the Roland Fantom, I want to say this, I want to go out on a limb and say this. In my opinion, I think the Fantom keyboard itself is going to appeal, I say this hesitantly, but I think the Fantom is going to appeal to a different type of musician. I feel like there are producers that would really enjoy using the Fantom to create music on, and then I think that specific type of producer would not enjoy the Montage as much because it is different. Now with that said, I think that if you enjoy the Montage, I think you could also enjoy the Fantom. Okay, so just to make that make sense, I think that people that love the Fantom may come to the Montage and feel limited in ways as far as workflow is concerned. But I think that people that can use the Montage could come to the Fantom and still enjoy it. Now, what I mean by that, the Fantom to me appeals to a different type of producer. I mean, okay, so there are drum pads on it. It has the TR Rec feature that makes it super easy to lay out drum and percussion patterns. It's basically like a 16-step sequencer, and all you're doing is pushing those buttons. So if you know how to set up a step sequence and what button I need to push for the kick to be on one, and when I want the snare or the clap to come in, I know which buttons to push. You can get a percussion track laid out very easily. It's just as simple as picking a drum kit and then getting into TR Rec and start hitting those buttons, and those lights start going across those buttons, and they're hitting right on the times where you're triggering them. Now that is great. If you're a producer that likes to utilize that type of stuff, you can do that with the Fantom. The Montage doesn't have anything like that at all. But if you like making drum and percussion tracks on your Montage, you can easily come to the Fantom and do them the exact same way as you would do them on the Montage. But not only can you do them that way, you can also utilize the TR Rec to record drum patterns, and you can also use the drum pads. So that is just one example, but I think it's a big one. With that said, I want to go back to something with the Montage as far as workflow, and that's the sequencer. There are people that are very dissatisfied with the sequencer. I am diving into it, just starting to dive into what's there. Some people didn't even know there was a sequencer on there, but they obviously need to do some research. But there is a sequencer, and you can make songs on it, and you can do patterns on it. People would like a more robust sequencer from the Montage. So Yamaha, if you guys are able to add any features to make people a little more happy with your sequencer, I think you got a great product here. But if you added some features as far as the sequencer is concerned, that may make people a little more happier. Once I get into it, if I see some stuff that I think could be improved on, I'll be sure to make a video about it. But with the Fantom, people are also unhappy with the sequencer because they don't like that Ableton style clip-based sequencer. They don't mind that sequencer, but they would have loved to have had a linear sequencer in the keyboard as well. So with the Fantom, there is no song mode per se, but you're using the clip-based launcher to launch clips like Ableton to create patterns, and using those patterns to build your songs. You can do songs on the Montage by default. I think you can do songs on the Fantom, but since it's not in linear format, people are kind of a little turned off by the sequencer with the Fantom. Okay, so the Fantom has direct integration with DAWs, which is important to a lot of people. Being able to interact with a DAW in a computer setting, but doing it all from the keyboard is very important to a lot of people. Some people hate using computers, and the Fantom gives you the opportunity, even if it's limited in some ways, it still has a option for you to utilize the keyboard to interact with the DAW. Just like the Montage, the Fantom has tons of buttons, tons of faders for you to utilize to program and shape your sounds. I really loved, even from the first time I saw the Fantom, I loved the fact that they had that section at the top of the keyboard that allowed you to be able to immediately adjust the filter settings, immediately be able to adjust the pitch, immediately be able to adjust the amp and the envelopes that control those, being able to go in and control what the waveform was on the oscillator, and then also being able to push a button to immediately take you to the screen. Of course, you're sitting there turning the knobs and adjusting it in real time, but if you need to do a little bit more fine tuning, or you want to see specifically what's going on, you can push the parameter button within that same section, and it will immediately take you to the menu screen that is directly tied to that section. I thought that was a great addition for them to put that right there in front of the user, to be able to get around the keyboard in a faster and easier and more efficient and effective manner. I will admit though, the Fantom does take a little bit more getting used to as it relates to getting around within the menus and the screens. It's still not hard, and if you are familiar with how Roland does things within their system with layering sounds and stuff like that, then the Fantom is not going to be too bad for you at all. I do currently own a Fantom G, and I have owned a Fantom X as well, so I have been familiar with Roland for quite a while. So it wasn't completely foreign for me to come in and start working with that system. But even this 2019 Fantom, or the current Fantom as some call it, it is different than the G, but they're very similar as well. So I will say this: I think that if you enjoy the Fantom, or if you buy the Fantom, I think if you buy the Fantom, I don't think that the interface or workflow will be something that will make you unhappy. I think there's plenty of knobs and buttons and things for you to turn and push and to utilize as far as programming is concerned. I think that you don't have to do a lot of menu diving, but you can do menu diving. A lot of the interaction with the keyboard can be done from the front panel, and they have a nice large color screen there for you to see and get around on and see what's going on. It does take some getting used to, but once you're familiar with it and what is where and how to get here and how to get there, I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit. I did forget this, and I want to bring this up because this is a very big deal to a lot of people. The key beds. If you are buying an 88 key version of these key beds, this is extremely important. The Montage has a key bed that a lot of people aren't liking. They don't enjoy the way it feels. They think it feels cheap. They think the key bed is very much different from the ones that they had before. Now, it is very much different. It's a completely new key bed, but they don't like the way the keys feel. They think it's too light, and in turn, because it feels so light, it makes the keys feel very cheap. That is a at large type of opinion that I've seen from the church circle, guys that play in church and guys that are used to the motif key beds and even the original Montage key bed. Now, I don't know if that's widespread like among other musicians within other genres, but it is something that I have heard a lot within the church community. Now, me, it doesn't bother me. I like the way it feels. I like the way the keys feel. It is light, but it just feels different. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. But on the flip side of that, you have the Roland Fantom key bed that I really like how it feels. I also liked how the Fantom G felt, but I really like how the keys feel on this Fantom. But the problem is the aftertouch. And even recently, Roland came out with an update that directly addressed the aftertouch, and it is still not that much better. I have to press down significantly harder than I do on the Montage or even on the Kronos or the Korg M3, keyboards like that, or any of the motifs. I have to press down significantly harder to get anything out of this Fantom. I have admitted that I have weaker hands, and some people tell me that it's not because of my hands. It's just that it's hard to initiate aftertouch from this keyboard. So if aftertouch is important to you, do not buy the Fantom. I repeat, if aftertouch is important to you, do not buy the Fantom. That is the 6, the 7, or the 8. I can't suggest it. I can't recommend it. If aftertouch is important to you, do not buy this keyboard. If aftertouch is important to you, then the Montage is the way to go. It's a lot more expensive, and you may have to deal with these on this 88 key, the way these keys feel. You may need to sit down at once by yourself and see how it feels. But the aftertouch on this is great. And not just the regular aftertouch. They have also given us polyphonic aftertouch, which allows you to trigger aftertouch from a single note at a time versus an entire channel at a time. But that is only on the 88 key version of the keyboard. The 6 and 7 only have channel aftertouch, which means that when I trigger aftertouch, even on one finger, one note, it's going to trigger it for every note that I'm playing in the chord. With polyphonic aftertouch, if you're playing a chord and you trigger aftertouch with this finger, it doesn't affect any of the other fingers in the chord. And that's amazing. That's great. And that is available in this keyboard, the Montage M X. Okay, so with all of that said, this all comes down to this. The question that people have asked, if I was going to buy one of these keyboards, which one would I buy? If I could only keep one of these keyboards, which one would I keep? And that is the part that I have had a very hard time with and have delayed this video because I have not been able to make a decision based on that. But what I did come up with that may help you guys out is this. If I had to buy one of these keyboards today, right now, and I was using my own money to buy it, I would probably choose the Fantom. The reason for that is because it costs about half of what the Montage cost. And to try to justify the double pricing with what I could get and what I could do with the Fantom, it would be hard to justify it. It would be hard to justify it. Being able to pay half of that. So for the price that I could probably get a Montage for, I could get maybe 2 Fantoms if I shop really well and get really lucky. Maybe not really lucky, but get lucky. I could maybe get 2 Fantoms for that price. If not 2 Fantoms, I definitely could get like a Fantom and maybe a Nautilus, or a Fantom and a used Kronos. So that is that. But on the flip side of that, if I was in a situation where someone else was going to buy one of these keyboards for me, and I was trying to spend their money the very best for me, I would get the Montage. That's because it's newer. It is amazing coming out of the box. And we have several years ahead of us as far as updates and stuff like that is concerned. So I just wonder what Yamaha has in store or how they're going to further enhance or make this keyboard even better. One thing that I was telling some friends is that this is a great time to be in the market to buy a keyboard. This is a great time to be a musician. The tools that we have at our disposal are phenomenal. The music not being made is not because of the tools. We have the tools to be able to create great music. The Montage is an amazing instrument. I have no issues with it at all. Well, I can't say I don't have any issues because there is one issue I have. I just don't remember what it is right now. So I know this video was long, but I went in depth with the Kronos versus Montage video, and I wanted to do the same kind of justice with the Fantom versus the Montage. I'm ending it by saying I can't recommend either keyboard over the other, but they are both good for what they do. They are both amazing for what they do, and depending on your preference, your workflow, and what you need from your keyboard, you can take the information that I've given today and kind of help you make a decision between the two. I hope you guys make a decision that makes you happy. I hope you guys can grab one of these, and I hope the things that I said today helped you out a lot. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and if you don't like the video, don't push the button. Don't push dislike. Just leave a comment and let me know what you don't like, and I will do my best to fix it in the next one. Please support the channel. We have membership options available that you guys can take advantage of. Membership access will give you things like members only live chats, members only live streams, members only virtual meetings that we will do with Microsoft Teams or Zoom. We can have one-on-one sessions. We can have group sessions about the content that is being provided from this channel. And if you don't want to support the channel with a membership, we also have super thanks and super chats available. You can also buy stickers to use in your live streams. But all of that is available to help support the channel. And what that does is it helps keep me encouraged, helps keep me supported so I can continue to make this kind of content for you guys on YouTube. This is Julius DeBerry, and we're out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Later.